If you are in charge of looking into your data and setting metrics for OKRs or a board, for example, and you're not really sure what metrics to look at yet, but you know what data you have, you just need like very quick ways to slice and dice that data to be able to explore your numbers. AI is a great tool for that. I'm going to show you in this video how you can save hours by basically just prepping your data and getting your data just right, and then leveraging AI to actually explore the data and figure out which metrics you want to present to your team. Let's dive in. I'm going to walk through this and show you how I can do this very quickly. I am using completely synthetic data, so the data itself doesn't actually make much sense, but that doesn't really matter. I'm still going to be able to illustrate the point here. Let's say again that I'm a product manager or I'm leading a product organization and I want to explore different dimensions. I want to, for example, see how we should define activation or what events or triggers seem to lead to the most conversions and so on and so forth. If I'm not really sure where to start, what I would do, and this is how I've handled it in the past, is I would start by effectively getting all the data ready. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that data, we're going to get it ready, and then we're going to have the AI actually do the analysis part for us. So the bulk of the work is going to be on the data preparation side of things. So here, again, in this hypothetical scenario, I have all my data that I need for my metrics. I intuitively know live in 3 different tables: my user table, my org table, and my reports table. So let's say that we're an org. We're a company that, for example, lets users build reports. And so we have this report table. Now, what I want to do for the AI is I want to give it just enough. I don't want to give it so much data that it gets overwhelmed and starts hallucinating and having a hard time navigating it. So I don't want to just come in here and like query my database and let the AI sort of run loose. But I also don't want to aggregate it too much. For example, I could have theoretically, if I have my list of reports here, for example, I could have theoretically aggregated that number up into the user. So I could have a column here that says number of reports by user. If I think that's a number, that's a metric that I need to look at, and that might be an indication of like engagement or conversion, so on and so forth. Instead of doing that, if the report is like a core concept and there's like more details within the report that matter, like the number of widgets or number of times that report was shared, then it's better to keep that separate. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a user table. Let me remove this, as a matter of fact. Let me clean this up a little bit. So I'm creating a user table that has my user information. And then I'm creating an org table that I can use to kind of aggregate my user information up to the org. And then I have my reports table. Now, rather than just give this to the AI as is, and this data is, again, synthetic and fairly small, but you can imagine you could have hundreds of tables and thousands of columns. And your query is probably going to be much more complicated, like this simple select star from this file. You may have a bunch of joins, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what matters is you want to boil this down to a unit that's like small enough and atomic that you can derive whatever metrics you may want. And you also want to go and clean up this data and relabel it so that the AI can understand it. So for example, here, let me go to the line here. And I'm going to say, for example, I want to select ID and then created date as user created date. So again, this is just an example, but if you relabel things, that's going to make it like extra obvious to the AI what this is. Same thing with onboarding complete, that's probably fine. We can leave it as is. Invites sent, maybe we want to relabel this as invitations sent by user, and then org ID can just stay org. I've gone ahead and cleaned that up. Let's go ahead and run this. Great. So now it's like extra clear what these are. Maybe I also want to go ahead and remove the timestamp here from the date. That doesn't really matter for me. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the AI to do that. Please remove the timestamp from the date. Again, your data may be much more complicated. So you may have some bad records, go and filter those out. You may have some test records. For example, we have internal users and test users as well in our production database. I filter all of those out. So you want to go and do that same thing. I'm not doing this here in this synthetic data, but very easy to do. Okay, here we go. So the AI is working through. Okay, go ahead and replace that. I just want to take a quick look at what it's done. So that's good. Okay, great. So now I have just my dates, and actually let's do the same thing for, oops, close that. Do the same thing for at SQL cell 2. And actually I'm going to relabel these just to make it clear. User data, this org data. Reports. Okay, so place that. Great. And actually, I'm going to rename plan as customer plan. And let's rerun that. So now that I have my data clean, what I can do is I can start asking the AI to actually analyze this data. So what I'm going to do is you can do that here in this right-hand side. Of course, you can export this to OpenAI or Claude if you want, but I'm actually going to use our analyst agent. So I'm going to go here. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to relabel these data frames. So I'm going to call this first data frame users, user data. I'm going to call the second one, this is org, and company data. And then this third one is reports data. So now when this AI configuration is what's the AI is going to access now from the reports. So now I have my report, I have my 3 files that I've created. They're all clean, they're pristine. I know I can ask whatever question I want now off of this data. And so from here is where I can start asking questions like, what number of invitations and widgets tend to correlate with a paying customer? Again, you probably have many more events, many more dimensions. There's also a historical data aspect to this that we haven't really touched on here, because you also want to make sure you're grabbing the data as of before and after you become a customer and so on and so forth. But again, it's an overly simplistic example. You can see here, I'm asking the question, the AI is working through it. Let's give it a second here as does its correlation analysis. Okay, so here we go. Again, this is all synthetic data, so this may not even make total sense, but based on the analysis of the data, here's what I found about the correlation between invitations, widgets, and paying customers. Invitations and paying customers, the highest percentage of paying customers is found amongst users who send 5 to 6 invitations. Users who send 9 to 10 invitations also have a high paying rate, and so on and so forth. The really cool part now is that now that you have your data, you can slice and dice the data a bunch of different ways. So you can say, for example, show me average number of widgets and reports by customer plan. So this is where, in a scenario where you're not totally sure what metrics you want to set for your OKRs or the board, you can come in here. As long as you get your data right, you can start slicing and dicing it all sorts of different ways, much faster than you could without AI. So huge productivity boost can save you hours of time. And there we go. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment or question down below in the comments, and definitely follow and subscribe.